Welcome everyone to the Pantheon. I'm Ray,
I'm Evie.
and today we're looking at the 2015 movie Ant-Man, starring Paul Rudd, Michael Pena, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Martin Donovan, the rapper T.I. There's a, there's a lot. Corey Stoll. There is a lot of actors in this film, but I thought this film is essentially one of the more funnier tier movies in the MCU. Is more comedy driven. What were your thoughts, Evie?
It was good action packed, very funny, very funny. And it was good to see Michael Douglas playing the father, you know, which is, it was good, very funny, lots of humor. I don't like creepy animals, and so there was like plenty of flies and stuff like that, but still, it was really, really well done, funny. Little kung fu people getting beaten up. What more could you ask for?
Oh
It
yeah.
wasn't too bad. And what was your opinion?
Yeah, no, I agree. You have like the carpenter ants, you have the bullet ants, you got the red ants. They all have a different function, and it's really interesting how they showcase all those different creatures in the film. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's in the writing. It's lightheartedness, and that's something that's different from it. But thematically, it's very different because it's the first time you have a story of fathers and daughters. You have Scott Lang try to reconcile with his daughter Cassie, and then you also have Hank Pym and his daughter Hope. Since the disappearance of his wife, he's kept his daughter at arm's length, and that's caused a rift. And it was only until they have the reconciliation does he realize that the answer to all his problems is literally in front of him. So these themes of the fathers and daughters, I think, is so crucial and
Yeah,
so it's such a refreshing change if to any other form that's been showcased in the MCU. So that's how it stands out to me. We're watching.
it was really, really well done, I would say, for that part. I've never seen that a lot. So yeah, it's refreshing when you see something like that so well done, right on the mark.
And just to add, I think Louise, played by Michael Pena, is like the dark horse. I think, well, going back to the future installment, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp, it becomes very evident there. He has a talent of narrating a story or explaining himself through a very quick and fast
Okay.
narration. I had it totally washed over me that he does the exact same thing in the first Ant-Man. So it's refreshing to see it on a retake that, oh, he does this same really fast narrative explanation. He
Okay.
explains the heist. Well, the story is from Edgar Wright and his co-writer partner Joe Cornish. They wrote the story for Ant-Man, and they've been working with this
Right.
property for 11 years. The screenplay itself was developed by Paul Rudd, who played Ant-Man, and his writing partner Adam McKay. McKay and Rudd, just prior to doing Ant-Man, worked together as a screenplay for doing Anchorman 2, the Will Ferrell comedy vehicle. They wrote that screenplay, so they understand the comedy. But ultimately, what I thought was really interesting that what Rudd and McKay put together was they introduced the first time we get him matching up with an Avenger, a lower tier Avenger, mind you, because him against Thor wouldn't last because he's a god, and so someone like Hawkeye, who's an assassin, would probably kill him within the first 15 seconds. So to have an Avenger who he can match with, a lower tier Avenger, it makes the most
Falcon.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, who would have thought, that he would have had to fly against Falcon like they're both flying. That was pretty cool. I never saw that. That was yeah, two people flying and stuff. Who would have thought? Anyway, I'm still blown away about it.
Yeah, with the goggles. Yeah, with
Yeah.
those goggles, he can track Ant-Man when he shrinks or runs away because he has flight goggles and you're able to see a far distance. But I know you had issues with the character. I know. What was your rationale behind that?
Um. Well, that Spanish guy. What's his name? Like it kind of went. He did it a couple of times, and all this has kind of got annoying for me for that. With just, I'm gonna give an explanation an explanation for this, that, and this thing. It's like, come on, buddy, maybe just once. Maybe it was just for comic humor or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so they did that. Other than that, I don't think that they failed anywhere else. I thought it was a good story,
Okay.
maybe
Well,
a bit
for
campy,
me,
but not bad.
I'll call it.
What are
I'll
your
make a reference to wrestling
thoughts?
because I call it wrestling speak because this is what this reminds me of in terms of words placed. This reminds me of WrestleMania 3. Okay, the card you have the best match in WrestleMania 3 was Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage. That was the best like in ring technical match. It told a story from beginning to end. It was the most complete match. A lot of the wrestlers today who are old school or remember that match base their storytelling and their matches as to that particular match. And then the main event, which was Hogan and Andre, which technically wasn't a good match, but you had the story of can Hogan slam Andre, and that's so when you think of WrestleMania 3, you think of the only match you ever think about is Hogan and Andre. Hogan slamming Andre the Giant on the middle of the match. So, but putting those two matches side by side, you would see the flaws and where it really underscored or underperformed by having Savage's match compared to Hogan's match. So having that undercard could be a women's match, it could be a gimmick match, whatever, something lighthearted and not too serious, allowed the viewers to breathe and to like calm down and not necessarily forget the match they just witnessed, but to allow enough time to happen so when you get to the next big match, so the next highlighted card, you are pumped up again and excited for what you're seeing because you just had a bit of a lull. So it's a way to psychologically get the audience to back to that level. And so when I look at Ant-Man and Wasp, a lot of people, it's in terms of it being $1 billion to like a 700,000 to $2 billion film in terms of box office. Well, there's a reason for that. I mean, they understood that you have to allow the build up for a fan frenzy. You got to give them a bit of a lull to breathe and then to really punch up, because if you put the two movies back to back, one movie's better than the other, and it's good to have the final movie be the better one because it is the crescendo. And in case it doesn't match that, at least you had a gap in between to allow the audience to not forget about the first one, as I mentioned before, but to allow that jump. And I think that's what I liked about Ant-Man. People are not going to like it, and it will always be in a lower tier dip in terms of the MCU. But out of necessity or design, it is the film that you can rewatch. It's rewatchable. You can watch it with your family and your friends, and it will have a lasting effect in the home,
You're
in the
right.
family dynamic with your kids. If you want to break your kids into watching, like newborns, into watching an MCU movie, Ant-Man is the first movie you probably want to watch. It's separate in story to everything else. It's lighter in tone. It's the film to bring the family together. You can watch it with your parents or your grandparents, and it's not going to upset them in terms of the violence. It's pretty light tone, and the comedy is designed to be that way, to be, on that PG narrative and to be lighthearted, and the characters to connect with its audience. I'm Ray.
I'm Evie.
We'll talk to you next week.